you tell me a story?
You bet, son. Which one do you want to...
The sentry! The sentry!
The sentry again, huh?
Yeah!
Okay. Once upon a time, there was a mysterious hero from...
Not like that, please. Can you tell it like a comic book?
A comic book? Okay, kiddo. No problem.
Attention, true believers! Marvel Comics presents the senses-shattering, absolutely true stories of the hero known as... the Sentry!
Incredible! With a man of your ability standing sentry, this planet has a fighting chance.
Sentry, eh? Not bad.
Super criminal The Void is holding prison officials hostage. I am Cradio, the man with the multi-level mind. I am always 3 steps ahead of you, Sentry.
Yes, Sentry, we'll be right there. Especially if it gets him out of a date.
Oh, gee whiz, Lindy. He seems like an okay guy.
Oh, Rob, you're so decent and naive. You couldn't relate to someone like him.
Such strength from a mere human! No! It's impossible!
That's us humans. Impossible to the end. Your end, Tor. You are not a hero.
Bob? What's the matter? Is someone there?
No, nothing, Lindy. Go back to sleep, okay? It's just a storm. I'll take care of it.
Once, there were heroes. For decades, in a time and place beyond our own, incredible people with extraordinary powers protected the world from the forces of evil. No matter how big the threat, how bad the situation, these modern marvels, superheroes, would arrive just in time to save the day, in the name of truth, justice, and liberty for all. Until... Nobody could have predicted that their greatest threat would come from within. A powerful and respected hero lost control, his tortured psyche manifesting as an unstoppable creature, dubbed Onslaught, and it threatened to destroy all of reality. An army of heroes banded together to face the monster in a titanic struggle, and through their valiant efforts, Onslaught was defeated. At a price. The dust cleared to reveal a tragedy. New York was in total ruins. thousands lay dead. And Earth's mightiest heroes were gone. The people of Earth were devastated. They had been protected against unimaginable threats, and now were left completely vulnerable. Chaos erupted in the aftermath, and with efforts to repair the damage proving insurmountable, other forces took control. Criminals, monsters, supervillains. Folks could only watch on in fear. Who could possibly save them now?
The couple that used to own that stuff isn't in any position to need it. But the closet and the bedrooms were loaded. Guy had a mouthful of gold teeth, too. You want me to go back?
Make one more sweep. Keep your eyes peeled and...
Good afternoon. You're desecrating corpses. Desecrating corpses and appropriating property that doesn't belong to you. My name is Citizen V, and I'm making a citizen's arrest.
Him against us? Oh, this is gonna be fun.
I expect it will be. For one of us. You see, I didn't come alone. Allow me to introduce you to the Thunderbolts!
Super battle and which heroes? What? New ones?
They're cheering for us.
It was a heck of a first impression. Everyone saw that day there was a chance. The actions of this new mysterious team inspired all around them, and soon word of their actions spread across the city. People were thrilled. In a time when all seemed lost, the Thunderbolts were a total triumph.
A triumph indeed! Even those paid to object to our actions welcome us. Truly, we have succeeded beyond our wildest dreams.
Citizen V? Your face!
You would prefer it remain hidden behind a mask, eh? Very well. But not the mask millions have come to trust today. Instead, I'll wear a rather different mask.
An incredible sight early this morning as Leon's villain heroes were seen finally taking control. Chaos that had swept across the city, managing to withstand the actions of the Russian
The mask of Baron Seymour, leader of the Masters of Evil! You have done well, my Thunderbolts. Or perhaps I should use your other code names. Fixer, Beetle, Screaming Mimi, Goliath, and Moonstone. In time, my friends, the world will discover what a viper it had clasped to its breast. But by then,
it will be too late. Far too late.
That's right, fearless front facers. In comics' most legendary twist, a shocking final page revealed the truth that the Thunderbolts, this new team of heroes, were supervillains in disguise. With their enemies gone, this dastardly band of do-badders had been handed a once-in-a-lifetime chance, with a scheme so underhanded, so brilliant, it would be remembered for years to come. But for what purpose, Marvelites? What heinous goal did they have in mind? What vile dream did they hope to achieve? What could it possibly be?
What else, you insufferable dolt? To take over the world!
To Leon Trotsky, he got an ice pick that made his ears burn. Whatever happened to dear old Lenin, the great O'Meara, and Sancho Panza? Whatever happened to the heroes? To the heroes, whatever happened to all of the heroes, all the Shakespeareos? They watch their own burn. Whatever happened to the heroes? Whatever happened to the heroes? Anymore. No more heroes anymore. No more heroes anymore. No more heroes
Okay. So, the success of the Marvel Age of Comics, their second chance at this, was always their characters. Relatable, flawed, funny, reflections of us and our lives, or the lives of those less noticed. They were presented as superheroes second and humans first. We knew their likes, their dislikes, their relationships, their personal fears and failings, even their home addresses. It made them feel like real people. Superheroes were people. They mattered. Supervillains? Yeah. I know, bit of a sweeping statement, yeah? What, are we forgetting Doom, Magneto, Doc Ock, Big Wheel? No, never. Marvel had incredible villains from the start, ones that tried to break the mold in the same way as their heroes, but it was never their story. Villainy, when it began, was more of an occupation, a job, than anything else. A commodity that had grown out of their original purpose as symbols of wartime tensions before slowly evolving into regular villains of the week. And some were just more memorable than others. Even a few of the greats began more two-dimensional in their hatred, but none of this is a complaint. I love it all. It was fun watching bad guys pit themselves against the heroes, reflecting their struggles, internal or otherwise, giving them something to triumph over. And part of the charm of comics was seeing what kind of bad guy would show up next, giving the artists and writers a chance to spitball successively wackier concepts for our entertainment. A guy with a robot tail, a fella with stilt legs, a boy made out of dough. Beast people, frog people, these were, I nearly forgot. Fish people. These were soap bubbles, designed to either float or pop. A select few lucky enough to return if they made an impact. They mattered as props more than as people, and we just accepted this was the way things were supposed to be. But, inevitably, fans got curious. Thanks to the innovations of Jack Kirby and Stan Lee's methods of storytelling, Marvel Comics developed into a vast interconnected universe that was constantly being fleshed out, the characters becoming more and more developed within that framing, readers naturally seeing those benefits start to impact on the villains as much as the heroes, quite a few becoming heroes of their own, and many becoming way more emotionally complex. comics. Over the years, we'd learn more about their histories, see them form alliances with fellow baddies, or even reveal aspects of their personalities that made them more compelling to revisit in new contexts. Part of this was thanks to a new generation of comic book fans who had become writers themselves, more invested in exploring those opportunities. And nobody was more invested than Kurt Busiek. Kurt Busiek had been a huge fan of comics continuity and wanted to bring his own voice to the worlds he'd known as a teenager, breaking in at DC and finally getting a shot at his other dream company. And after he was fired from Marvel, allegedly for making Heroes for Hire too fun, he span his wheels elsewhere for a while. Despite things not initially working out, it was Marvel where he'd meet an up-and-coming painter, Alex Ross, trying to pitch an anthology series of stories based around classic Marvel heroes, and looking to Kurt for advice. That evolved into them developing the concept together, and finally getting the green light to produce it for real in 1993, becoming the project that would make both of their careers. A mini-series called Marvels. The pitch was simple, to showcase the Marvel Universe from the perspective of ordinary people living in it, and in particular through the lens of photographer Phil Sheldon, observing the rise of heroes across the early years of Marvel history. Ross, like Busiek, had been a fan of that early era of comics and wanted, through his own developed photorealistic style, to try and show them the way he'd always seen them in his head. Larger-than-life tales with all the drama and artistic flair he felt they inspired others to feel, and he brought that fidelity and more to every drawing possible. That was revolutionary enough, but Busiek's contributions as a writer took it a step further. While Alex brought the scale of the visuals to life, Busiek gave everything cultural weight, showing the heroes' impact on the world, paralleling what they had reflected in our own culture, and, in some cases, presenting an unfair disconnect between their amazing feats of heroism and the terrible consequences of their presence. It presented not just an ideal, but a well-argued case for why these characters were ever created, what they meant to humanity, and it resonated with those who had followed their stories to this point, and felt the same way.
Did you hear?
Oh, mutants all the time with those powers.
Can't believe they're
Have to
acting
bother us
like
anyway.
Somebody's gonna have to put a stop to this
You
before they...
people! What do you need? The world to actually end? Are you so busy digging for garbage you can't even admit to yourselves that you're grateful? Look up, why don't you? Look up for once in your lives!
Marvels became a modern classic, and it gave Busiek the opportunity to then effect real change in the mainstream Marvel universe. The success of Marvels led him to produce Untold Tales of Spider-Man, set during the character's early years to flesh out his history, adding new faces to the cast and giving old ones more opportunities to prove themselves as more than background noise. This proved equally successful, and with that track record, as well as an independent series of his own on the rise, Kurt suddenly had his pick of projects. Yet he found himself looking at the state of comics in the 90s, and remembered an idea he'd had many years earlier based on a love of outlaw fiction.
There was a TV show called Alias Smith and Jones. The idea was you had two Western outlaws who wanted to go straight and stop being chased by the sheriff all the time. And so they made a deal with the governor that if they stayed out of trouble for a year, he would give them amnesty for their crimes.
But in the meantime, we'll still be wanted.
Well, that's true. It was really fun. Another big influence on that, on me, was when Hawkeye, Quicksilver, and the Scarlet Witch joined the Avengers. That they were three characters who used to be villains, and now they were given a chance to be heroes, and they were going to prove themselves. And because of the way comics were done back then, it was just sort of like, I want to be a hero now. Okay, boom, you're a hero now. And they didn't really explore it all that much. And I thought, wouldn't it be interesting to explore that? What if somebody quits and somebody else joins and it's a new hero you've never seen before? And then somebody quits and somebody else joins and it's another new hero you've never seen before. And at the end of a year or so, you've got Captain America and you've got all these new heroes. And that's when you discover that they're all secretly the masters of evil and they're doing this as a sneaky way of taking over. And I thought, that'd be fun, that'd be different. And then I realized, yeah, but readers would hate that because you'd go through a year and they'd be like, why are you doing this? You know, I want the Avengers I like.
Now, at the time, Kurt had filed this idea away and gotten on with his life, but had paid attention to what was happening at Marvel's biggest rival and how they had begun to handle their villains. In 1984, Teen Titans, a series centered around sidekicks and young heroes in the DC universe, had run a story called The Judas Contract, revealing, in a surprising twist, that a key member of the team had been working for one of their deadliest foes all along. Some years later, in a 1987 issue of DC's Legends, writer John Ostrander had revamped an old action title called The Suicide Squad, changing the premise to be about imprisoned supervillains forced by the government to carry out secret missions, the name now referring to their perceived expendability. The intended irony was that this allowed those villains, a few of them much lesser-known characters, a better chance to express their personalities, the inherent dramatic opportunities of that premise raising their value and cementing the book as a DC staple. So, it's interesting then to see what seems to be parallels to both titles in a comic Busiek published through the short-lived Eclipse Company label, just a few months after that version of the Suicide Squad's debut. It was called The Liberty Project, and it featured a team of teenage tearaways forced by an authority to reform. It didn't run for very long, but in the short time it did, it showed there was still life in the premise. Busiek's blend of criminal behavior and teenage angst making for so much more than a parallel rehash of either of DC's titles.
Kind of like what John Ostrander and Luke McDonnell did with Suicide Squad, except he did what I like to think of as he did the version of it that's the Dirty Dozen. And I did the version of it that's the Breakfast Club.
It proved he could write his own story about not-so-good guys, but it lacked the bite of what he wanted to do with a larger universe, and with a storyline he now saw could work with a single villain, but continued to be harder to justify with a group. There was still no way for him to see how that story could be told. Until 1997. Marvel, in a huge event crossing over many of their major titles, had devised a villain that would wipe out both the Fantastic Four and Avengers, removing them from the Marvel Universe. This was part of an extensive reboot plan, where those characters would appear in new comics with new backstories, capitalizing on a number of trends of the era in an effort to try and boost sales at a low point in their history. Yet, the other mainline Marvel comics with healthier sales would continue on, in a universe now left without its major heroes, and giving Busiek a perfect opportunity.
One of the interesting thing is there's never been a comic book, superhero universe in this situation. The heart of it has been scooped out. Right. There's this big hole in the middle. What does that mean? And me being me, my first thought was, what does that mean to those guys on the street who look up and point when the Human Torch flies by? They're going to be really, really scared.
Rather than have the Avengers slowly phased out, he could just introduce a whole new team to take their place, easily accepted by a grateful populace, and all secretly villains in disguise. So, at a creative retreat, Busiek pitched the concept to Marvel's editor-in-chief Bob Harris.
And he went like this. He went, okay, let's do it. That's the fastest sale I have ever made.
Not only did Marvel greenlight the project, they lent into the hype. This mysterious new group was advertised in bold, flashy prints, touting them as Marvel's next big thing, going all in on calling them the Avengers replacements. Journalists caught wind of the secret and were bribed into silence by being offered exclusive interviews. A month or so before, a story was printed where ordinary folks in a bar likened their arrival to their experiences with the great heroes of the past. Peter David, who was planning a similar made-up team to show up in his Hulk series, was easily convinced to swap them out with the Thunderbolts, all to drum up hype for their debut, and even stopped the solicitation from accidentally giving the game away. Everyone pulled together to keep the secret from the readers, and when they finally bought the comic and turned to the last page, they went wild. So did the sales. This page alone was and is one of Marvel's greatest achievements, and I think its success is the culmination of everything Busiek had been working towards. It had taken a long road to get there, but in the end he got what he wanted, a fresh, villain-centric concept with a great twist, and that ensured the book's early success. Combining all its influences and efforts to push comic lore forward, Thunderbolts promised to explore villainous characters in a way we hadn't seen before, to provide great dramatic conflict, and above all, offer an uncertain future where we would ask the best question a narrative can offer. What will happen next? I don't think it stops there. This page didn't just launch a great comic, it changed Marvel forever. I've never seen the connections made, but the more I've read over the years, the more I see dramatic, life-altering details stemming from that decision than I think people realize. My belief is this one comic, this one page, inspired by other approaches to comics continuity, began a chain of unintended events that cascaded, domino-like, into shaping the entire modern era of mainstream Marvel. And the only way I can think to demonstrate that, as much as analyze the evolving effects of that single page, is to just tell the story. The journey isn't always straightforward. There's missteps, there's doubts, there's possibilities not yet realized. But the moments that work are so good, I think it's a story that has to be told. This is the story as I know it best. This is the real story of the Thunderbolts.
Fan out, troops! Don't let the enemy win! Give them no quarter!
They called him Citizen V, a troublesome mystery man who worked behind our lines, fomenting rebellion, disrupting order. He had no supplies, no organization to speak of, but he was inspiring in a tawdry sort of way, and that made him dangerous. The battle is won, the rebellion shattered, and all that remains is to deal with those who'd raise arms against their master. What is your opinion, Helmut? Were you in charge? What would you do to discipline these unruly slaves?
I would have them flogged, to teach them the price of rebellion without destroying their value as laborers.
Perhaps I should finish the story about Citizen V and his little rebellion.
What happened?
What happened? I killed him, of course. I choked the life out of him with my own 2 hands in front of the men he'd led. Resistance, you see, is like much of life. It is not merely about victory or defeat, but about hope. Granted, frustrated, crushed, it can control people or even countries, so long as you control it. But hope outside your control, that is truly dangerous. And that must be dealt with unhesitatingly.
Baron Heinrich Zemo was an evil man. A German aristocrat from a long line of brutal barons, Heinrich thought of himself as the best humanity had to offer. He was born to be better, to subjugate others, to prove what years of noble breeding had given the world. Qualities that, by the 1930s, fell perfectly in line with the rise of a dangerous new movement. Becoming one of the Nazis' chief scientists, Zemo created compound formulas to give himself increased vitality, and developed sinister weapons to help subjugate the world in a war against the Allied forces. Escalated from the use of ordinary citizens adopted into their belief system to similar men of extraordinary power wanting to prove their worth. His work began to achieve notoriety, experiments affecting not just the Allies, but his fellow countrymen, often the unwilling victims of his tests, and driving him to conceal his identity under a hood, working in secret from that point on. But what did it matter? He was confident victory would be theirs, and that he could take full credit once they'd won, were it not for America's superweapon. Private Steve Rogers had undergone a radical transformation of his own, from a sickly young man into a super soldier, a symbol of American justice designed to fight back the Axis powers, and specifically men like Zemo. In a fateful encounter, Captain America left his mark, and Zemo, humiliated, would dedicate the rest of his life to Rogers' destruction. The two men clashed again and again, and it would have gone on that way had he not received orders to sabotage a powerful new allied device, a drone, that, with Zemo's input, they could turn back on the enemy. Once again, the captain set out to put a stop to the scheme, now accompanied by sidekick Bucky Barnes, but was unable to prevent the drone's launch. The two heroes desperately tried to deactivate it from the sky. Barnes would successfully stop the bomb, but appeared to die in the process, and Rogers, to Zemo's delight, fell into the frozen wastes below. The victory was short-lived. Even without the captain, the Allies prevailed, and, as with so many, Zemo was forced to flee to South America, hiding in its dense jungles and enslaving those within. His experiments had slowed his ability to age and led to a long and interminable existence, biding his time, subsisting on hatred, plotting his return. This came in the form of shocking news that a new team of superheroes had assembled in the West, and were led by someone he thought he'd never see again. Zemo was livid.
I thought I had gotten rid of both of them forever, but the most dangerous one still lives. Do you hear? He still lives. I must find him again and finish the job.
With renewed confidence, the Baron decided this superhero team required an equal force and response, learning of other powerful villains who had faced their ranks in the past, and promising them revenge as a team of their own, with a name that felt appropriate to the way they had been treated: the Masters of Evil. Traveling to the west, they would oppose this allied group, and together they would finally take back control of the world as the greatest possible. They lost, badly. A few times, actually. Zemo ran away, got crushed by falling rocks, died. Oops. It was, frankly, pathetic. For all this build-up, for all the respect paid to him by his followers, Heinrich's passing only cemented his legacy of total failure in the eyes of the public, and that, really, should have been the end of it. But, unbeknownst to the world, he was not the last Zemo. Helmut Zemo, the Baron's son, was very different. He was reserved, observant, calculating. And while equally deluded, he was the first Zemo to be born out of power, driven purely by revenge. His memory was of a loving father who promised him a powerful future, changed by his scars into something twisted, driving his mother to die of heartbreak and leaving him the inheritor of nothing. Evidence contradicts the truth of those memories and the order they took place in, but all stories Helmut told himself put the blame on the same person: Captain America. Helmut, unlike his father, had much more to prove, and decided to take matters into his own hands.
Know that your treacherous eyes gaze upon the face and form of the Phoenix!
An empty warehouse? A vat of chemicals? A hero in distress? I think we know where this is going.
Guide my hand, Father, as I avenge your death!
Don't be a fool, man!
Losing face so early in his criminal career, quite literally, Helmut felt his identity was lost before things had even begun. It seemed as though destiny itself was telling him to take on his father's mantle, to carry on his vendetta against the man who ruined his chance at happiness and prosperity. Helmut officially became the next Baron Zemo, and ensured this would be forever personal.
My father was a god to me, the greatest scientist in all the Third Reich, with a heart as expansive as his intellect. Until you attacked, Captain. You drove him mad, transformed gentility into rage, love to blind hatred.
Zemo, your father used his genius to create weapons of destruction for the Nazis. Whatever happened to him, however tragic, was his own fault.
Liar! You did this to me! Does this make you feel happy, monster? Are you proud of your victory? You couldn't remain dead. You had to return to haunt me, to stand as a constant reminder of my family's loss and shame.
But despite being so motivated, Helmut was never a leader. Even as Baron Zemo, Helmut's career was one passionate blunder after another, easily manipulated by the captain's other foes, whose schemes only accentuated his own inexperience. Read any one of his early appearances, and you'll see a troubled young man with no direction, who doesn't truly know what he's doing or feeling, and who, most importantly, doesn't command respect. Perhaps it was realizing this that saw Helmut finally pull himself together, wanting to prove he could lead, reviving another of his father's plans.
There is not one of you who has not known the bitter taste of defeat. You have all been humbled in battles against those forces which society deems good. Often you have been beaten and humiliated by avengers. And who are these avengers? Their ranks constantly change, yet they remain unbeatable. How do they do it? I can tell you. It is unity. But we too can present a united front. Together, we can utterly defeat whoever rises to oppose us. We must show that we are their masters. Are you with me?
Helmut's Masters of Evil, surprisingly, was much more effective. This team was bigger, more tactically chosen, and actually succeeded in hurting their enemies by bringing the fight to them. Taking over the Avengers' base of operations and torturing those within, Helmut sought to do to the captain's family what had been done to his own, on a scale that was totally unprecedented. Yes, the Avengers fought back. Yes, they overcame. Yes, Helmut lost, again, but the damage was done. And after so many years, he had finally left his mark. There was a cost, as with all these things. The last plan had not only hurt Zemo's body, but his reputation. A wider net of villains were now even more frustrated at having lost in such a huge gamble, and his efforts to move past that loss seemed increasingly manic, leading to some low points we're not going to get into, but you can if you want. It's pretty funny. Fact is, Helmut's run as Baron Zemo had peaked. He'd achieved one thing that hadn't even worked, and everything past that had gone totally downhill, leaving him more than a little peeved.
Blasted! Hiding like a whipped cur while his enemies flourish. It is intolerable! Intolerable! But no. I am a Zemo. All defeats are merely setbacks. All enemies merely obstacles to overcome. It is my destiny, my birthright, to triumph.
Hitting rock bottom, Helmut seemed to have a moment of clarity. If there was one skill he had his father did not, it was recognizing greatness in others, and he saw that while he wasn't getting the respect he wanted, the Avengers were. He saw the power they had he did not, that control was not forcing subjugation, that you had to make people want to be subjugated. An idea was beginning to form. He wasn't sure what it would be yet, but he knew he needed all the help he could get. It was time to assemble.
You're boring, Paul. I'm sorry, but that's how it is.
Fine. Goodbye. Have an unexceptional life.
Paul Norbert Ebersol, a brilliant inventor with absolutely no social skills and no one to share his genius with. Developing the identity of the Fixer, Paul found his audience within the underworld organization Hydra, becoming one of their high-ranking officers as a start to his blossoming criminal career. This put him in contact with other villains, like his frequent collaborator, Mentallo, and eventually Helmut Zemo himself, drafted into the assault on the Avengers Mansion. Ever since, Paul continued to experience failure after failure, but kept in touch with the Baron, having finally found someone interested in his gifts, and knowing he couldn't let that go.
I'm sick of puttering Barry. Tell me you've got something for me. A new challenge? New technology? Something.
I've got something for you.
Great. I'm your man.
Eric Jostin. A simple kid from the Midwest who'd experienced personal tragedy, Jostin would join the Marines, then defect to become a henchman for the Zemos, smuggling goods for their experiments, and eventually convinced to undergo a supervillain transformation of his own. Starting as Power Man, Eric would blindly follow others in a series of unfortunate events, eventually losing the rights to his name and powers before becoming the smuggler, and when he realized that sucked, he'd arrange a procedure to take the powers of another hero, Goliath. Coasting on that identity for years, he'd discovered those powers came with strings, almost trapped permanently in cosmic limbo by their real owners, and he would have stayed there had he not known Baron Zemo.
You saved me, Zemo. You rescued me. I'm yours. I'm yours forever.
Jostin's loyalty wasn't a question. This was simply another chance to let someone else do the thinking for him.
I can't believe it! I can't freaking believe it.
Abner Jenkins, an aircraft mechanic, had dreams of being respected in his field, but was ripped off by his bosses and laughed at by his co-workers. Frustrated, he used his skills to come up with a costumed identity, the Beetle, and set out to rob banks and defeat superheroes for attention. Instead, he got his ass kicked by the Fantastic Four, by Daredevil, by Iron Man, and most of all by a certain web-slinger he could never get the better of. Abner had tried again and again to achieve notoriety, even once as the leader of his own team, but was drowning in the oversaturated market of Spider-Man villains, and in spite of his efforts, none of them gave him the respect he craved. Abner was done.
Laughing at me, like all the others. I swear when I catch him,
Good
I'll...
evening, Beetle.
Huh?
I've come to make you an offer.
I'm in, Baron. Believe me, I'm in.
Carla Sofan, the daughter of servants, grew up around extreme wealth and power, and spent her life looking in on a world she was denied, vowing to, one day, make it her own. Watching people from the wings helped her grow into a model psychiatrist, and in a bid to increase her value, she began treating supervillains. One was Lloyd Block, Moonstone, who obtained unimaginable power from a space rock. Fascinated, Carla manipulated her patient into thinking it was dangerous, then stole the stone and identity to become a villain herself. This new Moonstone, whose main foe was the freaking Hulk, proved to be an exceptionally dangerous woman, contacting Baron Zemo and hoping secretly to overthrow him, and got sent to jail for her troubles. But this was fine. Zemo recognized the talent and relished the challenge.
That Prussian arrogance comes through no matter what the outfit. What do you want, Zemo?
I'm offering you a choice. A place in the team, contingent on your absolute loyalty, or a return to the vault.
Considering you've made me a fugitive, I'm in.
Melissa Joan Gold, a criminal mother and alcoholic father, pushed her away from her trailer park home to live on the run. She fell in with a group of female wrestlers, the Grapplers, who, when they were denied equal pay, turned to crime to supplement their income. Melissa had changed her name to Mimi, and when the team decided to undergo experiments to get superpowers, courtesy of the Roxxon Corporation, she, with her new supersonic hallucinogenic vocal cords, became Screaming Mimi. After a brief stint working for Zemo, she brought on the attention of another voice-powered villain, Angar the Screamer, and together they hit upon a novel idea, dressing as superheroes to commit crimes. They thought they'd won a lucky streak, but their luck was about to run out.
We make a great team, don't we?
You're so right, babe. You're the best partner I ever had.
Partner? But that's not all you think of me as, right? Just a partner?
No, babe. Of course not.
Angar? Dave!
One of the piggies must have got off. A lucky shot.
Please, Dave! Don't die! Don't leave me alone again! Please!
That's the thing about this group. They needed each other. The Avengers were free agents. They all had their own lives and businesses to deal with. They were committed, but they weren't tied to the team. These criminals had a skewed sense of freedom, were either working to impress or to conquer, and were longing to have even a fraction of their enemy's fame. Other former masters could have been chosen, but would they have played along? Could they be convincingly disguised? Were they even alive? Zemo picked a team that could only exist as a team, a codependent group profiled down to the last psychological detail, more open to being controlled, and with time, he would make them an unstoppable force for evil. But during the gathering, his mind had been changed on the method his revenge would take. His original plans were vague, something about replacing the Avengers or infiltrating them, swooping in at the last minute to take control. But this would become a non-issue rather quickly. Robbed of the chance to destroy his foes by the actions of an unpredictable new threat, Zemo felt hollow. The thrill of the plan was the chance to take personal revenge, but with the heroes gone, that version of the plan no longer held any meaning. Finding a new purpose seemed unlikely. And yet, that purpose sprang from the most unlikeliest of places.
And then, just the other day, the FF and the Avengers died. Fighting some clown named Onslaught. Just my luck. He didn't get Spider-Man a Daredevil, but that's the way.
The FF and the Avengers gone? Maybe we should apply for the job. Gotta be some money in it somewhere.
It could work. It could actually work.
You asked for it, loyal readers! Introducing the greatest hero of them all, the Golden Guardian of Good. Are you ready for the secret of the Sentry? Robbie discovers the Professor's secret formula.
Oh gosh, this must be the Professor's secret formula.
Suddenly, a miraculous transformation takes place. The boy glows with unknown energy.
Blast you, Void! Let us go!
Not a chance, Iron Man. With the Avengers captured, surely the mighty Sentry will follow soon. Sooner than you bargained for, Void. I will return, Sentry! I will return!
Sentry! In here! We need your help!
Surprise! What? A surprise party? Well, then all this time?
We were just setting you up. Put it there, pal.
We were waiting for days.
We knew you'd investigate. Heck, we counted on it, soldier.
Sergeant Fury, you made it too. And Nick. But wait. How can you both be here? You're the same, you're from different times.
Ha! Don't worry about it. Blow out the candles.
Yes. Blow out the candles.
What? But I don't understand. Something's wrong.
You're something wrong, and you can't be here. Not at my party. The planets. My God. They're all exploding.
Of course they are. There was nothing you could do. There was nothing that could stop him. His will was absolute. All of this was a simple wave of his hand. Mere whim.
No, that didn't happen. Did that happen? It was in a comic book that you read as a kid or on a TV show. What's wrong with you? Why is it so hard to remember?
Blow out the candles.
Blow out the candles!
Dang. Sorry, Johnny.
Spidey! No pictures!
Hey, Mom. Dad fell asleep while reading my Century comics.
But you're an excellent reader anyway.
Yeah, but Dad was filling in lots of extra parts to make it more fun.
Okay, give me those. Hey, there's a Millie the Model book that guest stars this Century.
Aw, is this going to be lovey-dovey?
Don't worry. Someone will get hit.
Oh, good.
We need a name, don't we? Something tough that makes it sound like bad news. I guess good news. Or good bad news.
Precisely the right tone to strike, Eric. In addition, it should be appropriately self-righteous and have an air of authority. Not unlike Avengers.
Ha! What you're describing, I believe, is a name with resonances of World War II. Of stormtroopers und the Blitzkrieg. Something crypto-fascist, but friendly.
And another beautiful float provided by the Long Island Acres Farmhouse Creamery going past as we speak in the lead up to today's event. Stunning work featuring exactly 100 cheese wheels and a perfect recreation of Shakespeare's Globe, all in celebration of our newest British savior, Citizen V.
I've not seen so much cheese since Titanic was in theaters.
Ah, very topical, Hugh.
Yes, for those tuning in, the atmosphere's thick with adoration today as we celebrate the first formal press conference from New York's newest heroes, the Thunderbolts, who've graciously agreed to make an appearance in the middle of their extremely busy schedules.
And it's been a wild party. Dancing, singing. This weather's just not letting folks down, and gosh, with everything we've gone through, it feels like celebrations have been long overdue in the, 6 years we've been at this job?
7, Judy. 7.
Finally. Thank you, everyone, for your wonderful and warm welcome. We are certainly glad to have made an impression, and I promise you that wherever evil may lurk, whenever villainy may seek to terrorize the innocent, the Thunderbolts will strike!
He's good.
Learn from the best.
Oh, over here, over here!
Citizen V, are you any relation
We'll be glad to answer questions, but please, one at a time.
Why call yourself the Thunderbolts?
It's inspired by a poem. Justice like lightning ever should appear, to few men's ruin, but to all men's fear. Our hope is that we can be that lightning, that justice. As for your other questions, yes, I'm the grandson of the original Citizen V, who fought fascism in World War II. I hope to do half as well as he did. And to introduce the others, Techno, whose mentally controlled tech pack affords him access to an arsenal of thousands of weapons. Mark 1, who combines maneuverability with shattering firepower. Songbird, whose voice works wonders. Atlas, the team's powerhouse. And Meteorite, who burns as bright and as hard as her namesake.
You're all newcomers. Why is that?
There are many heroes more experienced than us, and they are all quite busy, as any newspaper will show you. That's why we formed the Thunderbolts, to add to the ranks of the world's heroes, not to simply rearrange the players on the board. Now, if there are any questions.
Might call me the backbone of the team. After all, if not for my engineering genius, some of the other members wouldn't even exist.
Basically, anything a fighter jet can do, I can do in less than half the space.
I'm not really that big on public speaking, but if my mom's out there, I'd like her to know I'm okay and I love her and,
We gotta keep our identities and backgrounds a secret. You know how it is.
It's a dangerous world, and innocent people need someone to keep them safe.
Excuse me, Mr. V. The station's reporting that the Rat Pack have been sighted several blocks of where you fought them.
Ah, then you'll excuse us. Duty calls. To the V-Wing!
And with those words, the Thunderbolts snapped to action. Unselfishly, unhesitatingly. A threat had arisen, and they chose to meet it head on.
I don't think I can stress enough how much they got this right. As a concept, especially looking at Marvel history, this is a universe where people don't respond well to heroes, distrustful of vigilantes or prejudiced against those with different abilities, having to be won over with gimmicks and good press. The characters lost in the Onslaught War were, as Busiek called it, the daytime heroes, ones who had presented themselves as approachable, and the Thunderbolts were able to capitalize on those qualities after years of watching from the bench, all thanks to Zemo's direction, a man who knew the power of propaganda. The Avengers just about fit together visually, carrying rules from across Marvel Comics, but were clearly all still individualized, with designs that operated in separate titles. The Fantastic Four were more clearly a unit, but were less pronounced in their individual costumes, and clearly more of a family than a set of soldiers. So the Thunderbolts were a genius combination of both sides of the philosophy, capable individuals who function as a team. Their looks communicated individual abilities, often based on existing heroes the public were already comfortable with, to be better accepted, and it also reflected aspects of their personalities. Songbird's Victorian-inspired, delicate neckpiece, Abe's over-the-top jets, Paul's swashbuckling, roguish headband, Eric's boxer guard-style helmet and huge grounded boots, or Carla's ever-shifting, intricate patterns you could never get a read on, which made all of them impossible to draw, so thanks for that, guys. At the same time, they have a set of rules that tie them together. Greens and purples, the comic colours of villainy, are replaced with red, white and blues, emphasising their all-American charm, with streaks of violent yellow to signify their action-orientated namesakes. Hell, they even stole the FF's matching symbols, each holding a badge that gave them a sense of authority. The one exception to some of those rules is Citizen V, carefully designed to stand out as the leader, but also to hint at a secret past. Busiek wanted him to be a cross between Batman and Captain America, the cape and pointed mask giving him a mysterious, sinister edge, and the deep purple a clue to his true identity. He was also the only hero given the name of an existing legacy character, purely to give him some immediate phony history and throw people off the initial twist. All of this was nailed by legendary artist Mark Bagley, who was the absolute right pick for the project. He had a style that lived between the intricate musculature of the 90s and the slowly developing streamlined look of the 2000s, as well as a kinetic energy that was born to be used on a book called Thunderbolts. Seriously, Bagley's natural style has shapes that arc, Thunderbolt-like, from one end to the other, naturally zigzagging in a manner that made the comics he drew zing off the page. Look closely and you'll even see him hiding a lot of these Thunderbolt shapes in the designs. Again, making sure that for all their technical differences, they had a dynamic, cohesive look. In a way, the look became iconic unto itself, and best of all, it was a look that could only be achieved with villains. Around this time, a lot of ethically dubious versions of hero teams had emerged from writers in a more cynical age, who maybe had bad intentions while trying to act like heroes, or who were satires of existing heroes in other titles, or who were like, what if Superman was fucking evil? Never seen that before. But this was the look an outright villain would dream up to make fun of superheroes, mocking the idea of the profession and the people who bought into it, of America's concept of heroism, completely unambiguously at their expense. Even the name was perfect for that. Bob Harris had originally wanted a more cutting-edge, modern title, but the creative team stood firm, believing an old-fashioned name was the only way they'd be able to sell the scam. The Thunderbolts were actively improving on their enemy's appeal, getting the American superhero design formula Dallas so right, even we, the readers, had been fooled. And likewise, in their universe, the public ate it up.
Exclusive video footage of yesterday's dramatic capture of the Circus of Crime by the daring new team of superheroes known as the Thunderbolts. Between this and their recent battles with the Wrecking Crew and the Incredible Hulk, the Thunderbolts are capturing the attention and the admiration of Americans nationwide.
Just did what we had to do, you know?
Come on, kids. Let's get you to higher ground.
Gentlemen, it seems our foe has lost his head.
Lost his head?
Never let it be said I am without humor.
Hiya, ladies. Enjoying your day?
Ah! You're him! You're Atlas! Oh, I've just gotta get your autograph!
Well, sure, but, my hands, they're kind of big. There, that do you?
That's perfect! I'm never moving out of this building!
The advantages were numerous. For one, their appealing designs and heroic actions had quickly earned the public's trust, and gotten them in contact with the mayor's office via a superhero liaison. Dallas Reardon would communicate with the Bolts to give them government assignments, and by proving themselves on those missions, they'd eventually get adopted into the system, and given access to facilities that would make them Avengers for real. They were very careful to ensure Dallas only saw their good side, and she had nothing but praise for their work. But hey, she might have been a little biased.
No need to call me Miss Reardon, Atlas. After all, we'll be working together. Please, call me Dallas.
Well, Dallas, are you doing anything later?
As official superheroes, by which I mean government approved, the Bolts now had a tactical advantage over other heroes, many of whom had been plaguing them as villains for years. They could challenge the authority of anyone left, or hunt down vigilantes without consequence, allowing some of them to settle age-old grudges.
Yes! We're going after Spider-Man! Spider-Man!
Do not allow your feelings to jeopardize our long-term goals.
Oh, don't worry. I won't screw up. But after all the trouble I've had from that web-slinger, I'm going to enjoy this.
Even better were their advantages over the villain community. Long-held rivalries and bids for power from other criminals could now be crushed with the full force of authority, making them seem heroic to the public, but also getting rid of potential competition. Not that there weren't any trade-offs. Having to keep a low profile and not having a superhero base of their own, they ran the operation out of a rundown pizza shop, denied the comforts of their usual supervillain lairs, and even worse, realizing their gap in the market had already been filled.
The Masters of Evil? But we're the Masters of Evil! I can't take this rat trap another second. I'm a former Hydra section chief, damn it! I'm used to the best facilities, not some filthy, roach-infested cesspool where the plumbing's on its last legs. And you won't even let me fix it!
I'll be blunt. This HQ is important to our image. If we show up fully equipped, bristling with technological wonders, the public might accept us. But they won't think we need anything from them! They'll never give us what we want. Am I making myself clear?
She was right to enforce that principle. Zemo instilled discipline that had the Thunderbolts take the scam seriously. He insisted they, even in private, only use their codenames and refer sparingly to their former lives, as well as try to treat other heroes with some respect. Zemo's rules, while restrictive, worked, because people began to willingly hand over power to them. In the end, their greatest success was when the powers that be, feeling as though they had truly replaced their fallen heroes, gave them the Fantastic Four's home to live in. This was funny now.
You oversized oaf! Your giant foot was blocking the exit from the Bugle parking garage! You costumed clowns! You think you own this city, disrupting the peace anytime you feel like it, you!
My apologies, Mr. Jameson, but our mission is an official one. and quite urgent.
And what kind of mission is so all-fire and important that supersedes the rights of ordinary citizens?
We've been sent to locate and capture Spider-Man.
Really? Oh, well now, at least you're doing something constructive. Well, carry on then.
You know, boss, I love this gig. I really love it.
The success of the con was a major part of the fascination and gave the book an, if you will, electric quality, becoming a case study in how a villain's hypothetical dream worked in practice, and showing how this could be maintained. Busiek had hit on a totally new dynamic for the Marvel Universe, certainly on this scale, and for hero comics in general. The Suicide Squad were villains forced to do good deeds, or else, but the Thunderbolts were villains in disguise, enjoying the deception, and that made it feel fresh. The intrigue and drama coming from that precarious balancing act as they maintained the scam, every page and line of dialogue underlined by the twisted truth. This aspect would only increase when they gained a new public spokesperson, a teenaged sidekick.
What? But I ordered you to...
Yeah, I know. But hey, I'm part of this, and I am not staying behind.
Hallie Takahama was another victim of the Onslaught attack, made an orphan when her home was destroyed, living on the streets with other survivors. These poor souls, herself included, were eventually rounded up and spirited away to the country Latveria, locked in the dungeons of a certain monarch's castle. She never saw her captor, but was experimented on by his underlings, tortured daily, until their efforts finally backfired. Now in possession of astonishing electrical powers, Hallie escaped back to New York to find help, figuring the best people to ask would be the Fantastic Four, and was shocked to find someone else on their couch. It wasn't so bad. These guys seemed competent enough and were happy to give her a role in the team, as well as a new costume. One that now rings a couple bells. With their help, she was able to take the fight back to Latveria, ready to face the Fantastic Four's greatest foe, only to discover another person in his place, too.
Good evening, my friends. You were expecting someone else? I apologize. Air Dr. Doom has been missing as of late. But please, come in anyway. I can always use more raw material.
Arnim Zola, an infamous Nazi geneticist and former associate of Helmut's, had been responsible for the entire ordeal. And given Helmut was now in the habit of broadcasting their battles, it suddenly became an opportune moment to create even more distance between himself and his former life. There was another thing the cameras would pick up, the realization from Hallie that his experiments were her former friends. The full force of her emotions in the face of such evil were viewed by millions. Her courageous actions to fix the problem and defeat Zola, now famous, and it made it difficult for the public to let her go.
Is she a new Thunderbolt? What are her powers?
Well, she...
They love her. She's the darling of the moment, the hero of the day. She'll bring us even more respectability. Of course, if you don't make her a member, they'll all want to know why. And that could jeopardize our secrets.
She is not currently a member of the Thunderbolts, no. But if she'd like to join us, we'd be honored to count her as a member.
Oh, wow. I'm flattered. And I'm grateful for the offer. Well, I'll do my best. And as for a name, I guess you can call me Jolt. Yeah, Jolt.
Initially, her inclusion was a great benefit. Hallie was a huge fangirl, obsessed with superheroes, as well as possessing an encyclopedic knowledge of their adventures, and was excited to be a hero of her own on a brand new team. With someone like Hallie as their new mascot, they now had the perfect cheerleader to defend every position they took, with great enthusiasm, lending a huge amount of credibility to their public appearances, as well as helping them face threats only the Avengers had dealt with before.
Holy cow, it's the Growing Man!
The which?
The Growing Man? Oh, come on, it's got Thor, Iron Man, even the Avengers. Yeah, I'm kind of an Avengers buff.
So what does it do?
It grows.
Is that all? Well, I better lay it out fast.
Meteorite, no! It grows when you hit it. Okay, see?
Sure, it meant they had to keep their mouths shut around her, but they were already managing to keep a big enough secret. A teenager shouldn't be too much of a concern, right? Really, it was all good. At every point across the board, with success upon success colouring their adventures, the team became a beloved set of household names. Every turn brought them better rewards and more attention. Every deed became an iconic story for the public to tell, and it looked like the party wasn't stopping anytime soon. Everybody loves a hero. Everybody loved them. All they had to do was keep it up, just keep doing what they were doing, maintain the facade, enjoy the rewards.
You did what?
And not fuck it up.
At last, with the Earth's technology under my control, nothing can stop me from taking over the world.
Not so fast, Ultron!
Oh no! It's Songbird with special wing attachments and sonar sound effects.
Music to my ears!
Trying to escape the leap.
I don't think so, Batrock!
No! Mach 1 with rocket launcher accessory!
Sure! Excellent work, team! With my sword-slashing action, these fiends are aflame! Watch out, Citizen V! It's Baron Zemo! And his masters of evil!
I will destroy them! I will destroy them! You will not!
Captain America, with swinging shield accessories, saves the day again! Cool, blimey! Thanks for the save, Captain.
And thank you, Thunderbolts! Together, our friendship is our strength!
Thunderbolts action figures, in stores now. Each sold separately. Mach 1 not actually a flying toy.
You did what?
Hey, what's the harm? They'll never pin it on me. And the guy had $7,000 in cash plus jewelry. What, I should have given it to the cops?
Yes! You're engaged in the greatest deception in history. Look around you. Look at this building. Do you have any idea how much this cost? Say gave this to us. Gave this to us. And you jeopardize that for a pathetic $7,000?
I screwed up, I guess.
That you have. And if you ever expose us to discovery like that again...
Enough, Zemo. He realized his mistake. No need to dwell on it.
My God.
So, here's the problem with supervillains pretending to be superheroes. They're not superheroes. For as tight as the team was, and as well as Zemo led it, the natural instincts of these criminals were not, shall we say, good. All the things that were their strengths as villains were now liabilities that could seriously hurt their reputation, and while you can lead a horse to water, you cannot make it nice. There were attempts made, serious attempts, to keep their identities hidden. Public perception clouded interest in their former lives, but Paul knew they still needed to change their facial features to avoid being recognized by the authorities. Not wearing masks means you have nothing to hide, and while Zemo maintained his air of mystery, Paul devised a machine that altered some of the others' appearances, including his own. No longer a gooner, in theory, anyway. These disguises worked. To a point. Most were fooled, but some just couldn't shake this feeling. Something about the decisions they made, the way they moved, or spoke.
The girl's voice. Have we met before?
Wouldn't know from where.
The villains were the most perplexed of all. Some of them were totally fooled as well, sure. Criminal couple Titania and the Absorbing Man took one look at this new group and, not realizing this was a scam, ripped off their look for their own scam. Never the sharpest tools in the shed. But others thought something was off. They were used to being defeated, sure, but this was weird. Like the new team was always one step ahead, always aware of things they shouldn't know, or making things happen that didn't seem right.
So anyway, Thunderbolts rumbled the operation, and the goods got confiscated.
It's all I hear these days. Thunderbolts this, Thunderbolts that. I know what you mean, fellas. They're going after everyone. It's like they've got some kind of inside information. Like they really know the mobs. Still, it looks like I could make a living playing poker, eh?
Hey, what's that noise?
Ooh, looks like I gotta go.
I thought you said you were retiring, Nob.
I'm doing some consulting, strictly background stuff, low risk, but it's at a tricky phase. Very delicate.
You know how it is.
Hydra, in particular, was getting very concerned. Baron Wolfgang von Strucker, a founding member of the organization who had personally worked with Heinrich back in the good old days, wanted to get ahead of the threat as soon as possible, working fast to shake them down, and was shocked to receive a call from an unexpected guest.
Good morning, von Strucker.
What? How did you get this frequency?
I'll make it simple. Either you leave us alone, or you can escalate this. And we'll make it our top priority to shut you down. Your choice.
And something about the caller's attitude, his arrogance, seemed familiar. But Zemo was too distracted to worry about any of that, because he'd begun to get suspicions of his own. At first, it had been difficult to get the Bolts to do as they were told, but as time went on, they'd seemed more comfortable in their roles, performing perfectly as heroes. Perhaps too perfectly. Eric was getting closer to Dallas, someone Zemo felt they needed to keep at arm's length. Hallie had no idea they were crooks still, and her shows of affection were seriously cramping his style. One occasion saw them working alongside Spider-Man, with Abe constantly itching to screw him over by the end. Only that didn't happen. Was this to keep up appearances? Or was this something else?
You seemed troubled earlier. I wondered if there was anything I could do.
You're the shrink, right? You tell me.
At a guess, I'd say it has to do with Spider-Man.
I'd planned to leave him hanging. I was looking forward to it, even. But I couldn't. I gave him the disc because he deserved it. It was the right thing to do. I gotta tell you, Meteorite, this hero thing, I'm starting to think it's contagious.
As the team were growing closer, Zemo worried they were growing softer, more interested in what being a hero offered. And it was getting a little, I don't know, sappy.
Human again? Well, that's kind of cool. Does that mean maybe I could have kids someday or something like that?
Kids? Your relationship with Dallas going that well, huh?
Hey, I'm just asking.
I don't believe it, Melissa. Look at all this mail. It's fan mail. For us.
Here's one for you. Ahem. Dear Mach 1, I'd like to inquire about your availability for product endorsements?
Oh, man.
I know it sounds kind of stupid, but, well, you guys have been so nice to me. Taking me in like this and, well, it kind of feels like...
Feels like home. Feels like a family. I never had a daughter, but if I did, I'd want her to be just like you.
Yeah. Wait, really, Carla? You mean that?
Really, Hallie. I mean that.
Wow.
But did she? Did she really? What was going on? Why were they all being so... nice? Busiek Zemo was, definitively, an outsider, even among his own peers, and I think that built wonderfully off his history of trying to be taken seriously. Even with a brilliant new plan and a team of lost souls he had power over, he was written as someone apart from the others, unable to connect with their personal lives, forever left out of other children's games, and the dramatic quality of that angle made their dynamics around his own wonderfully compelling. Eric wasn't particularly bright, and had a history of running from situations or being easily manipulated, but here was a relationship with someone who seemed to genuinely like him, and showing a side of Eric he never thought existed. While his place on the team seems natural aesthetically, a villain already associated with stealing another hero's gimmick, he'd really been chosen by Busiek for the page that established him first, a nameless henchman searching for his master at any personal cost. That's who he'd been throughout his life in print, following orders with no long-term plans. So it made sense to reverse that and have people look to him for answers, to see how he would cope, and watching him struggle to ignore that kept him on a razor's edge throughout the narrative.
So I said yes, left the force, and went to work for the mayor. My family was disgusted, of course, they're all badges. My dad still won't let it go. But listen to me, Cab. I don't even know the first thing about you. Not even your name.
Dallas,
No, look. It's all right. I know you've got to protect the team. You've got to keep your secrets. Tell you what, I'll call you Steve, and you can call me Slim, like in that Bogart movie.
You're too nice. If I was you, I wouldn't... Uh-oh. Gotta go.
Melissa, as Screaming Mimi, had been something of a blank slate, and wasn't Busiek's first choice, but given she was always presented in a crowd, trying to blend in, there was enough to suggest a history of abandonment, which Busiek made the core of her anxieties here. It's why she'd strike up a relationship so quickly with Abe, the reader's unsure if this was entirely genuine, or simply another body for her to hide behind. And it might have worked, only now, Abe was coming to like the perks of being a real hero. This was a guy who, looking back on his appearances past, had wanted respect, and Busiek wondered what would happen when you throw all that approval at him all at once. Abe getting everything he wanted killed his motivation as a villain, and made Melissa sure he would eventually leave her behind too.
I just want to talk. You've been shutting me out for weeks.
Abe, I don't mean to be rude, but it's just... everyone I've ever cared about, I've lost them.
Look, I can hardly believe this is me saying this, but I've started to wonder if maybe other things might be more important. And the reason I'm thinking like that is you.
It was her worst nightmare. Part of her thought this might be a phase, but another part agreed, hoping nobody would notice, not knowing Carla was watching them all. It was obvious Carla had a better poker face than Zemo, a terrific liar whose set of skills as a psychiatrist made her the most obvious to dramatically play with. She had been a wonderful villain in earlier appearances, telling whatever lies she needed to get what she wanted, but it was Roger Stern who built on those qualities after making her a frequent foe of the Avengers, especially during her time with Zemo, always finding an angle to undermine him, and that hadn't changed a bit. She knew what intense roleplay would do to these criminals, and her efforts to stop that seemed oddly inconsistent, especially around Hallie, leaving Zemo to wonder whose side she was really on.
Meteorite. And how are you today? Not plotting against me, are you?
Plotting against you?
Don't think I haven't noticed how much you've cheered Makwan and Songbird's affair on. Or Atlas with that Reardon woman.
You did give me responsibility of keeping the team functioning and convincing in their roles.
Functioning? Yes. Addlepated with romantic thoughts and dreams of family? No. And speaking of which, it was you who talked me into bringing that wretched little foundling onto the team, forcing us to continue the role-playing 24 hours a day.
Me? It was you who decided to broadcast our battle, making her so popular we couldn't convincingly turn her away. I've been performing my duties as best I can, Baron, and they require considerable improvisation.
Perhaps we can ease your load and prove your loyalty in one stroke.
Kill her.
Do you have a problem with that, Doctor?
Not conceptually, no.
The beauty of the book was that we couldn't tell what the truth was either. Busiek created a fantastic conflict through these characters, without ever feeling untrue to their history. Rather than take every detail at face value to try and justify all loose ends, he simply took all the broad commonalities of their appearances and asked why they would be worth exploring in this scenario, to create a story where we were constantly guessing who might ruin the plan, always aware what they were thinking, how they were changing, but never knowing which way they'd finally go. It's a great skill to take a character with a long existing history and manage to make a compelling narrative that still feels true to all of who they've been. Certainly something other great villains of Marvel history had gotten to experience as various writers played their qualities up and down, pushing them as far as they could possibly go while remaining true to their core values. Only now it was being used on a bunch of C-listers. Complexities that had always been there were finally brought forward, in a situation that suited them best, and that complexity, as it changed week to week, could jeopardize everything they'd worked for. Zemo was getting nervous. There was a feeling that wasn't there before. He couldn't put his finger on it, but it was there. The longer this went on, the more things might change, and the less chance he had of the plan succeeding. It began to take its toll.
Good work, Thunderbolts.
We can expect further attacks from the elements of doom, though, and we've got to find a way to shut them down before they strike again.
Oh, that shouldn't be a problem. Techno can find them. Can't you, Techno?
Nothing easier. With that many radioactive elements among them, tracking them will be a snap.
Great! So we...
Hold it! Before I put my team in harm's way again, we need proper intelligence. So, once again, I'm requesting the Avengers files.
Well, there's been discussion of unsealing them, but the question of ownership hasn't been resolved. And in any case, we're unsure that they're complete after the recent incursion into the mansion.
Blast it! We're supposed to be safeguarding the city from a super-powered army. I want all the information that can help me, and I do not appreciate being denied it while it's allowed to be destroyed by incompetence.
Incompetence? Citizen V, I
am tired, Miss Riordan. Tired of risking my life and my team's lives and being rewarded with suspicion. I want those files. I want those security clearances, and I want them now, before we aid you any further.
What? You're refusing to help? But lives are in danger. We can't just
We do not go. That is an order.
The balance was always in flux. Their need to maintain the lie conflicted with what they were beginning to feel, and because all of them had entirely different goals, it was never easy to predict who would sink or swim. Disobeying their boss could be to the benefit of the plan, seeming more credible as heroes, both to Hallie and the world, but it could also be because they actually wanted to see if, without their master, they could still do the job, and that could go either way. On one horrible occasion, it did. Paul's death, so sudden, so tragic, showed they were, in fact, in completely over their heads. But it also showed something else.
Songbird? Got to move fast. Go now!
No, I can't do it. Not alone. If we can free Abe, then maybe. But you can't just ask me to go out there.
I know you can do it. You're a hero, Songbird. I know it.
You really think so? You really think I'm a hero?
It showed, in a literal do-or-die situation, when the odds were against them, maybe they could do it. Maybe they could save themselves, fight the bad guys, live their own lives, be real heroes. Maybe...
You know, I should die more often. Look on everyone's face is totally priceless.
Yeah, I breezed past that for a reason. Paul, with an ego the size of Cleveland, had only ever cared about being recognised and adored for his genius, and wasn't looking to rock the boat, until his superiority was called into question. However, his death only made things worse. His subconscious transferred into his robotic tech pack, which made him 1,000,000 times more insufferable and above the drama. Not the first time he's been replaced by a robot, funnily enough, and I don't think it's an accident that he suddenly looked more hench now. Anyway, the real point was that any good they thought they were capable of was always undercut by the bad it came with, and it made it even less likely that this thing could hold together. The question was no longer if they could pull off the scheme, it's who would be there when they did.
That was an awful chance you took.
I know it's not something I would have tried a few weeks ago, but I'm starting to feel confident for the first time in a long time.
Thunderbolts?
Oh.
Black Widow! Hi!
Is there something we can...
I thought, perhaps, I might help you. I've recently reached the conclusion that I may not be all that good a superhero, but I'm still a very good spy. I wondered how such experienced super types came out of nowhere, so I did some investigating and came up with some very odd possibilities.
We don't know what
Calm down. I don't know anything, you understand? Not for sure. If I did know something, I'd have to do something about it. But we're not there. Not yet, anyway.
And this is supposed to make us calm down?
I'm guessing you got into the game because you wanted respect. And you, Songbird. It seems like you got a lot of bad breaks. This one. It's a good one, isn't it? If I'm guessing right, you'd like to become what you pretend to be. But can you? I have, and so have others. They overcame fear and suspicion. They proved themselves. And they proved it's possible to change. Now, some advice. You've got some thinking to do, and a decision to make. Your boss, if I'm right, is the lowest of the low. The worst it gets. He will go down. And if you're still there when he does, you'll be going with him.
What are you all lying around for? We're supposed to be taking over the world today!
We're not gonna take any orders from you this time, Citizen V!
Yeah, we're too busy eating these tasty fruit pies.
Fruit pies? We are the masters of evil!
The only evil I'm gonna be doing is hogging both great flavors, apple and cherry.
Here, try one Citizen V, the delicious real fruit filling, the light, tender crust, just like your mother used to make.
Oh, very well. Scrumptious! I never knew pie could taste this good. From now on, we'll use our powers to benefit and protect mankind!
Not to mention these tasty fruit pies.
The new tasty fruit pies for when your superhero hunger strikes.
Anyone got the macros on these, or?
Leave me alone.
This is Mach 1 to Strike Team. I'm keeping my distance from him so he doesn't blow up my armor, but I've still got enough pop to send him the right way.
You don't get it. No one gets it. Leave me alone.
Let's talk a little about Heroes Reborn. When the 90s began, comics were a red-hot business. The rise of the speculator market for what could become culturally valuable issues, the increase in extremely individualized art styles, and the emergence of aggressive anti-heroes all contributed to comics no longer being seen as throwaway kid stuff, selling by the truckload. However, it was also putting a strain on the industry to keep up with the demand for those qualities on all its titles, especially what had once been Marvel's most iconic brands that now, in contrast, looked boring. To make matters worse, the young creators they'd hired, who'd been responsible for a lot of those trends, had left to form a new independent label, Image Comics, allowing them to own and create more of what they wanted, wiping the floor with the competition. Marvel, on the verge of bankruptcy, knew it needed to do something drastic, and paid close attention when their competitor did just that. In 1993, DC killed Superman. Their most iconic character, the first true superhero icon, was struggling to compete with the era's vibe shift. And so, a story was conceived where a new character, Doomsday, would finally prove his match, winning at the cost of his own life. Some called this a desperate bid for attention. And it worked. The story generated national news headlines, complaints rolled in from fans who hadn't bought comics in years, and it all translated into sales. It didn't matter DC had always intended to bring the character back, which happened a day later. They proved people would miss something after it was gone, which would, in the long run, remind people why they cared and reinvigorate the series. It worked so well they tried similar tactics on other titles, which also got results. And so, Marvel decided to get in on the act themselves. Only, they didn't kill one hero. They killed a squad. Onslaught was their Doomsday, an all-powerful character who could bring down their most centralized heroes. But this was just phase 1 of their marketing plan. Not only would they get their first headlines by appearing to kill all those heroes, they'd revitalize their business by rebooting those characters in brand new stories, a line of comics called Heroes Reborn, created by none other than the team that left them behind at Image. Editor Ralph Macchio maintained this was always an experiment. After all, there were comics in their mainstream series that still sold decently, which they wanted to keep continuity on, though there was discussion of continuing Heroes Reborn after the fact. But whatever the truth, they were able to sell their alternative option alongside their existing canon, theoretically making bank on both. In their mind, they were having their cake and eating it, but in reality, they just had cake. What made Image Comics so popular didn't work for Heroes Reborn. There was an initial surge of sales, but the drop-off that followed made it clear this wasn't really what people wanted, and I think there's several components to that. Characters like Spawn, Shadowhawk, and Savage Dragon were successful as counterculture figures, rejecting standard superhero comics and the rules of their design, making the mainstream titles trying to ape their style feel more gimmicky than their earlier natural stuff. Existing fans of the characters felt conversely, it wasn't enough of a departure, keeping most of the basics intact, and coming off more like speedrunning their greatest hits than anything actually new. But perhaps the biggest issue was the style. Once seen as fresh and bold, and now seeming like a passing fad, specifically for the direction the Avengers and Captain America took under Rob Liefeld.
He is one grim-looking guy. There's no way this man can move.
The writing was considered thin, taking a backseat to the constant fistfights, and people felt Rob's anatomically questionable art was starting to wander into the realms of parody, all distilled in one drawing the world won't let us forget. Liefeld was off the project only half a year in, and replaced with veteran creator Walt Simonson, but the damage was done, making Marvel's decision to crawl back to its former contributors, people who had actively flipped them off and left, looking very weak. Marvel would pull through the bankruptcy, and in the end, Reborn would have the same effect as Superman's death, reinvigorating interest in the books it originally replaced. But the whole thing came off as another fumble in the ongoing industry crash, seen by some as a face of the problem, deservedly or not. Yet, what's so interesting is that, as Reborn tanked, Thunderbolts thrived. The series had sold out its first 2 issues, and remained a top seller as the months rolled on, outpacing all expectations and outlasting a lot of its contemporaries. This speaks to the success of the initial twist, but I think also to what the market was looking for. I don't feel readers appreciated seeing characters they once liked being yanked out of continuity to retread old ground somewhere else, but they did like seeing the universe they were familiar with moved forward in new and exciting ways. It's worth mentioning that Busiek had actually published his own original series at Image, Astro City, existing as an optimistic counter to the anti-hero titles around it, which perhaps suggested he had perspective on Thunderbolt's ability to sit in the middle of those 2 points, and draw on both their strengths for Marvel's brand specifically. Think about it. It fit in with the existing continuity's tone, it validated their back catalogue as it repurposed the past, and it kept apace with the competition of anti-heroes around it, meeting that demand without having to start itself over again. As everything around it collapsed, Thunderbolts held its ground, and I feel in doing so that would allow Marvel to better transition into the modern age than the attempt with Reborn. Thankfully, Heroes Reborn wasn't limited by its failure. Even though the series presented itself as a modern-day reboot, something they wouldn't take long to try again, it still had an in-universe reason to exist, where nobody had actually died. To sum it up, the all-powerful son of the Fantastic Four, Franklin Richards, abducted by Onslaught for his powers, had, at the last moment, transported all the heroes to another pocket dimension, one he had created himself. He can do that, he's a good boy. This meant when the experiment was inevitably over, Marvel could just take all those characters back and revive them in the mainstream universe, with this other reality continuing to exist as its own thing. Hulk was merely the smoking gun for the next big Marvel event, dubbed Heroes Return. And really, I think most people were ready for things to get back to how they were.
They're alive! Oh, they're really alive! Oh, I can't wait to drop in on the Fantastic Four. My old buddy deserves a great welcome home gift, but I'm torn between the webbed wedgie or face full of... Oh.
But what readers also knew, and what made this a heck of a lot more interesting, was what they'd see on their return.
Figures the flavors of the month would be given the keys to the city. I shouldn't blame them.
You think he's learned the truth about us?
Anything's possible, but the web slinger never struck me as the Sherlock Holmes type. Although it would be almost worth having our secret exposed if we could get our hands on that reward posted by...
I assume you're joking, Techno.
Of course! I wouldn't do anything to jeopardize our real goal.
See that you don't. The city government is finally about to turn everything over to us. This is no time to risk exposure.
For the public, this was the best. Their heroes were alive and everything would be fine, and as far as they were concerned, the more the merrier. But for the Thunderbolts, you think they'd be, well, less than thrilled. You think this would be, perhaps, a bump in the road for Zemo's scheme. But this wasn't the case at all. In fact, he was delighted.
For me to call the last few days momentous would be quite an understatement.
You didn't have to tell me, really. It's just you mentioned your sister once, and I was curious.
It's okay, kid. It's funny. In some ways, you remind me a lot of her. Jeez, it was so long ago.
I can't believe you guys are talking about the past. Not with everything that's happened in the last few days. Not with what's about to happen. I don't know about you. My heart's beating so fast.
Sorry I'm late, gang. Hope I haven't missed anything.
Is everything set, Techno?
Everything's going like clockwork.
Hey, we'll need you in 5 minutes.
Thanks, Dallas.
Granted the Thunderbolts a Paragon-level security clearance. This is the same status long enjoyed by both the Avengers and the Fantastic Four, and this development, I hope, will allow the Thunderbolts to do an even better job of protecting innocents. And now, without further ado, I yield the floor to Citizen V.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We are honored by this gesture on the world's part, and the faith its people have placed in us. I can only hope that we will never lose sight of the goals and ideals that have led us to this point.
Did you have any idea it would be so successful?
We certainly hoped for the best, of course, but we had no expectations. Nothing but a desire to do as well as we could.
There's been no word on the Avengers reforming. Do you think there's no need for them with you around?
If the Avengers reform, it'll be good news for the entire world. We would never dream of replacing them.
What about the Fantastic Four?
Four Freedoms Plaza belongs to the Fantastic Four and is only on loan to us. The moment they want it back, it's theirs, unconditionally.
Citizen V, aka Helmut Zemo, you and the rest of the Thunderbolts are under arrest for your crimes as the Masters of Evil!
Did he say Zemo?
The Masters of Evil?
Techno, as we discussed. Now! Songbird, we need a barrier. Meteorite, we need an exit.
Dallas,
The Thunderbolts escaped, dashing across the city as the returning heroes hunted them down. Events that I feel are often glossed over when discussing the return. The main collection of stories tends to omit this part, suggesting the transition was fairly smooth, with only the FF inconvenienced by the change. But reading this, it's clear what started as a side venture was now absolutely swept into the concerns of the mainstream continuity. To translate, if you wanted to read the real ending of Heroes Return, you had to read Thunderbolts. Everything led back to the Baxter Building, as the Bolts, barricaded inside, tried to figure out how things had gone so wrong.
We've got less than 15 minutes before they gain control of our defenses and shut us down.
Oh, fabulous.
Who exposed us? Who figured us out?
I'd sure like to lay my hands on whoever messed up things for us. For all of us.
It was Black Widow. It has to have been.
The Black Widow? What are you talking about?
Relax, Meteorite. It wasn't she who ended our little performance. It was I.
Zemo? But why?
I am Zemo. I miss nothing. You were thinking of abandoning the plan, of playing the role of heroes forever, since you enjoyed it so much. And Moonstone was nudging you all towards that decision, to satisfy her own ambitions. Did you truly think I didn't know? I let it happen. I let you play your games.
You could have warned us. We could have been captured. We could have been killed.
Yes, you could have been. You know where you stand now. You can return to your adoring public, if you like, and be torn limb from limb. You can become independent supervillains and see what kind of receptions the underworld will give you, knowing what you've done to them. Or you can stay with me. It's entirely up to you. Ha! My father was right. Control hope, and you control all. We have work to do.
Where are we going?
You'll see soon enough. But at the moment, it's time to discourage pursuit. And thus, its purpose is served.
Over the last few issues, Zemo had essentially been working on two different tasks, reassembling and improving a device stolen from other criminals, the biomodem, that could enslave the minds of others, while getting hooked up to government intel. With Paul's personal upgrades, things had been moving even faster, and were now spreading the effect among the military to begin their conquest. With Paragon-level clearance, the Thunderbolts were finally valued at the level of Earth's mightiest heroes, and that value was being put to use.
People of Earth, greetings. I am Helmet, or more accurately, I am Zemo, first Emperor of the world. My troops are advancing through virtually every part of the globe. Your leaders will talk of resistance, of standing firm, but they know, as you do, that they are merely delaying the inevitable. Tell them to capitulate. That if they surrender now, I will be merciful. But if you resist, I will crush you into the dirt and build my empire on the rubble. The choice is yours.
Everyone will think twice about launching another attack. But why not just control everyone with the biomodem?
Better to break their spirits than enslave their minds. Better if they know they have been conquered.
Truthfully, I've always been struck by the abruptness of this turn. Busiek made it clear he wanted this to happen suddenly, rather than drag the scheme out, but something about Zemo's decision felt like more than practical timing. Was it just because he was worried the team had given up? Or was it not about the team at all?
Baron, this was always the plan, yes? Helmut? Was this your plan?
That's how I help this century.
Aw, come on, Dad, wake up! I'm not sleepy yet!
Honey, your dad is exhausted. He spent the past week trying to reverse global warming.
Was that?
I mean, working on a cure for your Uncle Ben. And he just doesn't feel like story time. Why have you been on such a century jag all week anyway?
I'm just trying to figure him out. I mean, he has all these weird, cool adventures, but they don't line up, I guess. Some of it sounds real, and other parts sound fake. I mean, why?
Why? Why? I'll tell you why, Franklin. No, I've got a good one for a #1 Century fan. You want a story, Franklin? A real story? Then listen to
The Final Century Story.
Yep, that's got to be Cranio's secret base. Incredible. This looks like real brain tissue. Can it be?
It is indeed real, Sentry. As real as either of us are, for what that is worth.
Cranio! A hologram?
Come. As a worthy foe, you have a right to understand.
Professor Cornelius's pyromobile. Well, he'll be wanting that back.
You cannot move it. It is jammed in a perpetual state of quantum flux, but we can use it to see firsthand the truth of our existence. Your enemy, the Void. He negates energy, life, everything kinetic with his touch. I became intrigued by how the Void came to exist at all. His physiology somehow held the key to your destruction, but it was too big a coincidence. How could I resist the chance to solve the mystery of the century?
There's no mystery, Cranio. I drank a serum. I got powers. End of story.
You are right, in one respect. That was the end of a story for you, and the beginning of another. You see, that's the true dilemma of our reality with you in it. The rules of time and space alter for you. Just by your presence, the universe reshapes just to accommodate you. Things that didn't happen in this world before happen because they must for you to exist. That includes me, I regret to say. I searched the timeline and found no beginning for myself. I exist only because I am a proper foil for the century. That was when I realized that I was truly from another era and place that does not exist. Ridiculous, isn't it? I hadn't considered that an ally would betray me. Even one such as he.
Cranio! Direct me how to help. We could put you back together.
All the king's horses, Sentry. You are ever noble to the end, as I expected. Yet, I will go out of this life first, old enemy. As always, I'm 3 steps ahead.
I don't know what to do. I so desperately want to be the Sentry. I don't know if I can deal with being Bob Reynolds. I keep hoping to myself. I keep hoping the problem will go away.
This is your last stand.
What are you pushing back with, Sentry? You barely have enough life force to stand.
You can't understand. You'd have to be something more. Maybe you could.
You're pacing like a cat.
I don't like this, babe. I don't like the waiting. I just don't like it, that's all.
You don't like what, Beetle? Don't like the fact that if Zemo succeeds, you'll be one of the masters of the world?
Look, don't call me that, okay? And yeah, maybe I'll be in charge and all, but I guess I liked it better when they just liked me.
You've never understood what you truly want out of life. None of you have.
Hey!
Jolt!
You've been here all this time?
Why come forward now?
Because I think I know how to take Zemo down. But, I'm gonna need your help.
You're crazy. We wouldn't stand a chance.
Yes, we would! Look, I know you! You're not the cold-hearted killers you're made out to be. I have lived with you. I've fought alongside you, and I know you liked being heroes. You don't want to do this. Am I wrong? Abe? Melissa? Eric? Can you honestly tell me I'm wrong?
There might be some possibilities inherent in this idea.
Possibilities? For what? To free the world? Or to take Zemo down and rule in his place?
Ah, child. You believe in them, but not in me. I assure you.
How can you assure anyone of anything, Dr. Sofin? How can anyone ever trust you? Justin, return to your master.
Atlas?
The bold mutineers, rallying behind a starry-eyed child. You think you could unseat me? I would be a fool to fail to prepare for you turning against me. And Baron Zemo is no fool. Goliath! Techno! Kill them!
It was Thunderbolt versus Thunderbolt in a grueling match to decide the fate of the world. Fists flying, loyalties tested, a mess of limbs and explosions. And all of a sudden...
It worked!
Oh! What?
Who? I never thought I'd be so pleased to see so many superheroes in one place.
Take another look. Look at their eyes. They're Earth's mightiest heroes, all right. But they're mine!
The biomodem had already been put to use on Earth's mightiest, brainwashing the heroes of Earth into becoming Zemo's new elite guard. And quickly, things came to a stalemate.
I suppose I could enslave your minds as well. No, you'll have to die. To be executed by my own hand. And the first of you to fall will be Jolt.
Do it, Zemo. Maybe I'll be dead, but you'll still be a jerk.
Such spirit! No!
That was all they needed. The bolts fought their way through the heroes and managed to escape by the skin of their teeth, realizing something even worse was happening to the base, and that Paul was really far gone.
Impressive, isn't it?
It was useless to do anything else. It was all too late. Nobody had a plan.
Here we are, folks. Semirobran Station. It's fully stockpiled with air and supplies. Food paste, probably. But I'm not complaining.
This is a temporary measure, at best. We can relax, catch our breath, but we're going to have to figure out what to do next.
What do you mean? We're gonna go after Zemo. That's what we're gonna do.
Be reasonable.
We just got out of there with our lives, and you want us to turn around and go back?
It's a suicide mission, kid. No chance.
I don't believe this. This isn't a matter of choice. Whether we stop Zemo because it's the right thing to do, or because we've got friends and family down there, or just because we want an Earth to live on, you've got to do it. We've got to. Can't you see that? Well, can't
you? When you put it that way.
I guess.
You have no idea how glad I am to hear you say that. How y'all doing?
You might have heard of this guy. Tony Stark wasn't yet known to the public as a superhero. The millionaire genius playboy philanthropist had, years ago, been a weapons manufacturer. His life changed by a critical injury in an active war zone, only able to escape by creating something other than a gun. An amazing suit of armor. Realizing his effect on the world, Stark was emboldened to use his gifts to protect people, rather than carry on the war economy, as the superhero called Iron Man. But he still wanted to keep that identity separate from Stark, acting as his own personal bodyguard. Call it a cliche of the era, but I think in Tony Stark's early days, the secret identity made sense. His childhood, his business, and his failing heart all contributed to his personal demons, ones he sometimes lost control of, and while it was stated he wanted to protect his friends and family, it was clearly more to protect himself. As Iron Man, Tony could project what he wanted to be seen as, the public image of Stark always somewhat tainted by the past, and wanting perhaps at least one secret he could keep from the world. That way he could resolve his personal issues on his own time, advised by his friends rather than by public opinion, working to be a better man, and one day, perhaps, he might build up the nerve to tell the world the truth. The real point being, if there was anyone who understood the concept of redemption, using another identity to resolve your own, nobody knew it better than him. Over the years, Stark offered opportunities to others to do the same, championing the idea of second chances and making heroes of others in the process, and that made him the right person to recognise the same could be true of the Thunderbolts. His placement here, I feel, is pivotal. The first to accept them as individuals.
My armor, or my mind, has been taken over a little too often in the past to suit me. I built some safeguards that kept me from being mind-controlled. Figured anyone Zemo was mad at might be some help in taking him down.
This is so great! What do you think we should do, Iron Man? Oh, I said that out loud.
Let's get one thing straight, miss. I don't like your friends, and I don't like what you did to the world while we were gone. The only reason I'm here is that we six made the Earth's only hope. So, this biomodem. Any way around it?
Well, Mach 1 snapped Zemo out of its control once.
I can't quite see snapping Captain America awake, only to find himself face to face with known felons.
No, he'd probably object to that. I can see why you wouldn't consider your history an asset right now.
Don't you get high and mighty with me, mercenary. You like to come off like some tin-plated saint, but you still take a paycheck from Tony Stark. You're in no position to—
Whoa! We are on the same side here! Okay, there must be a way we can get at the biomodem.
Techno can shift its circuitry around, whisk the modem away before we get near it. I can jam the signal from penetrating my helmet. Maybe rig up something that'll protect the rest of you. But I can't shield the entire world.
So the key to it all is techno.
Maybe not. I got an idea. It's kind of risky.
Even if I wanted to. Could I bring myself to do that?
This is what you get for letting yourself open up. Letting yourself care and hope and dream. You used to be tough. You used to be screaming Mimi. You know what could happen. And it terrifies you.
Betrayal is all my life amounts to. My sister, Dallas, Zemo. I don't know what I'm gonna do. All I know is I'm gonna end up betraying someone again.
How much am I doing because I want to prove something? To be a hero instead of an idiot who got duped completely? And how much is because I have nowhere else to go?
If I know the others, they're wallowing in past regrets. But I know who I am. I've always known. If I'm going to salvage something from this mess, I need to think it all through coldly and decide on my best move. For now.
Captain America. It's amusing, isn't it? Once, all I could think of was revenge. All I wanted was to kill you, as you killed my father. I knew you didn't really kill him, of course. It took your apparent death to make me look past that. To make me realize that instead of seeking to clean up my father's unfinished business, I should instead follow in his footsteps and take my true place as a Zemo, as the rightful master of the world. It feels good. It feels just. It feels right. And wonder of wonders, here you are, fallen into my hands anyway. Even though I have let my desire for revenge go. Step into the airlock. The viewport.
Okay, people, you know the plan, so move fast.
Everything. So fuzzy.
The Masters of Evil have found us! They're going to kill us all!
This is insane! Why?
That's not really any of your business.
Here's the thing.
You blew up my house, you bum!
Well, yes, but also, yeah. One of the more interesting aspects at this point is the positioning of Carla as team leader in the absence of Zemo and Techno. This part of the story is about the Thunderbolts turning good, right? It's about them turning the tables on their evil leader and becoming good guys themselves. But what I actually see is Carla, if anything, comes across as even more unhinged.
Come no closer, woman! I'm warning you!
What's this, Baron? No secret backup plans? Don't tell me you're out of dirty tricks. Well, that's just too bad. I've got a pretty simple philosophy of life. You want to hear it? Don't get caught! Public support! Adulation! The perfect cover to pull any number of scams, and you blew it over just one? Who cares about ruling the world? Who wants to do that much work? But no, you couldn't be smart. Not when you could play Hitler just like your father. Well, it's bunker time, Zemo. Only Eva Braun isn't available right now, so...
See what I mean, folks?
Put him down, or suffer the consequences!
Oh no. Carla, the biomodem, it's gone. He moved it.
What?
I am this station, Meteorite. Did you really think you could distract me from what was happening in it?
Your body. You're awfully proud of your new state, aren't you? You haven't mentioned any of the drawbacks that come with it.
I can invent whatever I need. Indistinguishable from the real thing. All I want is respect!
Oh, really? You're known all over the world as Zemo's flunky. Where's the respect in that? All you've done, even all this, will be seen as Zemo's triumph, with you just as the underling who did the grunt work. The lackey who got his hands dirty.
I am not a lackey! I have a reputation.
People know what I can do.
They do. Then why is your old partner Mentallo higher on the most wanted lists than you are?
You're lying! You're lying! I'm accessing geofiles right now! Interpol files!
Oh, I see. I located the station's central processing unit. Scarlet Witch, down there. That's his brain.
I get it, Dr. Richards.
A classic move. Giant enemy Techno had exposed his weak point, allowing the Avengers to inflict massive damage. I should really just stop talking, to be honest.
Ah, must have fallen through the floor.
Justin, help.
Zemo?
Help me reach the escape pod.
But
I must escape. Must live to have my revenge on those who have betrayed me. You owe me, Justin. You haven't forgotten that.
Oh man. I'm gonna regret this. I know I am.
Get in, Justin. I need more help than this?
Well, No. You saved my life, I saved yours. We're even.
All heroes survived the explosion. With the biomodem destroyed, everyone on Earth was returned to normal, and the Thunderbolts were brought in front of the Avengers to start talking terms.
So, heroes, what now?
What do you mean, what now? You're a bunch of slimy super creeps, and you're going to jail. That's what now.
That may be, Mr. Grimm, but we did save your lives, and we did destroy the threat of Zemo after he captured all of you. Iron Man will attest to that.
Well, yes, I've got to admit that.
They were the ones who put Zemo in power in the first place!
Hey, it's not that simple. They did the right thing in the end.
Have you seen 4 Freedom Plaza lately, Purple Puss? You want to bunk in there a few days? See if you feel so forgiving of those...
This isn't a decision we need to make now. The Thunderbolts can answer to the proper authorities for what they've done. And all factors can be weighed, both good and bad. So, do you plan to resist standing trial?
The arc of the Thunderbolts' first act is often sold as a team of villains who, by pretending to be heroes, become heroes. That they rejected the worst of themselves and overcame the odds to be better people. That they were a lie that became the truth. It's not quite it for me. Not exactly. Zemo's plans centered on villains. Not the greatest of them, but a team of people he knew, based on their psychological and personal profiles, would go for a scam. He'd take control of their lives, he would transform them into something they were not, improve them beyond all recognition, make them so convincingly effective, nobody would suspect. What he had not anticipated was that this would heighten their individuality, pull things out of each person that were always there, and make them realize they were capable of more. In that sense, Zemo had triumphed. He had changed them forever. But that didn't make them heroes. Saving the world was an act of a team trapped in a dire situation, just as their personalities were starting to truly come forward. They still had doubts if this was who they wanted to be, but they couldn't go back to who they were. We'd seen them develop into interesting, multi-dimensional, powerful characters who could carry a story without their heroic enemies, and once that happens, they had to become something else. I think it's the kind of story that resonates if you have people that would make a clear distinction, who would only pretend to be heroes if they identified already, willingly, as villains. I am a huge fan of villains, because I feel that personal distinction is so dramatically interesting, and one that lives and breathes in Western superhero comics. It's not a mystery to me why someone would want to be seen as a hero, to get positive attention, and have incredible powers that allow them to fix the world. But even with a tragic backstory or sympathetic past, to call yourself a villain, to accept you're a bad guy, and to make it your job, wearing a uniform you put on to hurt others, to enjoy that, to laugh about it, that's different. What drives a person to feel so rejected by reality, so bitter, that they accept that? What makes them think that way? When this story began, these guys wanted to rule the world. That's fascinating. It's goddamn fascinating. Thunderbolts explored the mind of the villain in a radical way by making the roleplay of superhero comics the center of the conversation. Unlike the Suicide Squad, or the Liberty Project, or any of the anti-heroes of the era, the Thunderbolts were given a choice, choosing to dress up as something other than what they were, choosing to put on an act for the public, and realizing, in the process, that they actually did have a real impact on others' lives. That they mattered. That's a powerful thing to discover when you've spent your life calling yourself a villain. It's that idea of self-worth that I think lives at the heart of the story. Doing good things won't make you a hero overnight. It doesn't change the feelings that you've always felt wrong, somehow, that you've never mattered. And the real question is, Does that ever go away?
No. We won't resist.
Cripes! Oh, they've gone!
We let them escape?
I don't know, Jan. They looked as surprised as any of us.
Things had not gone the way Zemo would have liked. At last, he'd made an impact on the world at large, seen as a true threat, but there was still so much to be done, and so little time to do it in. The Thunderbolts, they were his creation, and he could not let them exist without him, not when he deserved all the credit for their success. He would have to deal with them. Revenge, it seemed, was back on the menu. But as he drifted through space on the long, long journey home, he began to realize something dangerous. Zemo thought he was born better than everyone else. His father had thought so too, and look what happened to him. But unlike his father, Zemo had, however briefly, succeeded. He'd gotten the public's respect. They'd cheered for his team. For him. They liked him. They actually liked him. And for the first time, he felt something within himself he'd never experienced before. But what was it? Hope. Outside his control. And that must be dealt with. Unhesitatingly.
You can do it! You always come through! I don't care if you're Rob Reynolds or the Sentry or whoever! I love you!
May I want to give you Skyscraper to use as home base.
I have a plan that could make this a true watchtower, where you could monitor the entire world for crises.
We ain't wanna fund this here endeavor.
After all the close calls you've turned around, I can't think of anyone better to be watching over this world full time.
Thanks, Cap. I promise you all, you can always depend upon the Sentry.
Again, that's one of my theoretical mental exercises to help me brainstorm. None of that is real.
So, Sentry is still a good guy, right?
Oh, come on, Franklin. Next you'll be doubting Santa Claus.
I'll try to explain to friends dear the reason we two are apart. I know what to tell our friends dear, but what will I tell my heart? It's easy to say to strangers But what will I tell my heart, my heart? What will I tell my
Hey, nice costume, kiddo. You looking for your mom?
Yeah.
Can you tell me what she, I'm sure she'll show up eventually.
Mom told me not to talk to strangers.
She's right. A smart woman, but don't worry. I want to make sure she finds you, okay?
Okay.
Great. Listen, you're lucky, you know that? Dressing up, getting candy. You get to my age, it's work and bills and all sorts of boring grown-up problems. No time to take other people's candy. You're going to have a terrific time, I bet.
Sure.
Hey, don't worry, kid, she'll find you.
It's just... when my dad was around, I didn't used to get lost like this.
Hey, I understand, son. It's okay. It's okay. Shh. Listen. I have something very important to tell you. Whatever it is, I want you to know your father wouldn't want you to be sad. Mine didn't.
You lost your dad?
Oh, yeah. Long time ago. And it hurt, at first. I think it always has to, no matter what you tell yourself. But in the end, it was for the best. For both of us.
Huh?
You know the worst part about my old man being around all the time? I couldn't get away with anything. Not a damn thing. punish me for the slightest things. Coming home a few minutes late, forgetting to take out the trash, and sometimes, my boy, it'd be just for existing at all. Oh, the anger I felt. The rage he felt for me. My father was a miserable coward hiding behind hate. And I was actually rather thrilled to be rid of him. And I'll tell you something else, little one. I knew your father. He was the same. Not strong like mine, but just as cowardly. Just as miserable. Now, just as dead. So, I promise you things are going to be much better for you. Now you can have all the candy you ever wanted. Yes, that's right. No more tears. Oh, there she is. Run to her, little one. Run.
Oh my God! I was so worried! Are you okay?
Mom, there was a man. He made sure I found you.
Well, that was nice of him, honey. Oh, how about we get you some candy?